their mind is made up, once they have made the decision that they're over it, you can't hardly change their mind. Amen. You'll see them running around and all of a sudden they're making changes in their life. All of a sudden they're making moves. You know, you let a woman get out of a relationship, all of a sudden she's packing her stuff up. I'm sick of this. I'm done with this. Amen. Next thing you know, she's gone and she's been talking about being over it. But let somebody talk about being over it and let it be coupled with action. Guess what? They really over it. Amen. Amen. They're really done with it. See, when you are really and truly over a thing, you don't wait for somebody to give you permission to move on or get what's yours, but you'll take things into your own hands and do what is best for you. Amen? See, done people go into me mode. Done people go into, I'm just trying to get some peace in my life. I'm just trying to survive. I just want to be okay. Amen? Don't really have anything to do with you right now, but it's all about me trying to keep my sanity. Amen? It's all about me trying to move forward. It's all about me trying to get ahead. Amen? Done people are selfish people. They're not selfish in a bad way. Because oftentimes we don't operate in self-care. We don't operate in taking care of ourselves. We'll stay in a dangerous place. We'll stay in an unhealthy place, an unhealthy condition in our life, an unhealthy mindset. And we know that that mindset and that condition is not good for us, but we'll stay there because we have not realized that it's okay to take care of you. Somebody say it's okay to take care of me. Somebody say it's okay to be okay.
It's okay to be okay.
Say it again. It's okay to be okay. And oftentimes we don't think that it's okay to be okay because we're worried about everybody else, and we're worried about the people that we're connected to, and we're worried about offending people, and we're worried about how's this one going to make it, how's that one going to make it. But if you can't take care of yourself, you can't take care of anybody else. Amen?
Amen.
If you are jacked up, how in the world can you help somebody else? Amen? Somebody say, I'm over it. I'm over it. Again, what's somebody who is really over a thing? And you'll see them begin to disconnect themselves from anything attached to what will keep them in that thing that they're done with. They have a mentality of I'm cutting it off. When I made that decision, when I was finally done and made that decision to run for my life, I began to disconnect myself to everything that pertained to that former life. Anytime there was a next move, or anytime I was done with something in my life, I began to disconnect myself to anything that had to do with it. When God delivered me from drugs and alcohol, when He delivered me from cocaine, I had to disconnect myself from people, disconnect myself from situations, disconnect myself from anything that was attached to the thing that I'm over with. Oftentimes we say that we're over something, but we don't want to disconnect, amen? We keep ourselves attached to the mindset. We keep ourselves attached to the situation. We keep ourselves attached to the circumstance. We keep ourselves attached to those same people. And because we're still attached, we're not really over it, amen? Over people disconnect. Somebody say, I need to disconnect. And oftentimes it's hard for us to disconnect from the thing that we're over with and totally cut it off and cut it out of our life. Amen? We want to stay connected a little bit, but we won't really detach ourselves from the thing that we're over with. And again, I've never seen a person who is truly over it not take recognizable and or drastic action so that they can be really over it. If you're only talking about it, amen, you still haven't had enough of it yet. And if you aren't making marked changes in your situation, you're not really over it. In other words, if you ain't making moves of some kind, you're not really over it. Amen? People that are really over a thing will make drastic changes in their life. They'll make drastic moves. I know this is a bad example. This is probably a real bad example. I'm gonna give it anyway. When you're in a bad marriage or in a bad relationship, and the husband's over it, and next thing you know, he's either going to the gym, he lost about 20 pounds, now all of a sudden he's wearing cologne, and he's shaving, going out buying new underwear, new clothes, amen? Because they're over it, amen? And so they start making these moves, they start making these changes. Watch people that start making changes in their life, amen? Because if somebody has said long enough that they're done or that they're over with, and they start making changes in their life, 9 times out of 10, they over it, amen? Amen? I was over the abusive situation before I made the move. And I was making moves to get out of the abusive situation before I ever got out of the abusive situation. See, over it isn't an overnight process. Sometimes being over it takes years, amen? Sometimes being over it takes decades. It's not often an overnight process. Again, drastic action is an indicator that somebody has had enough. Hallelujah. Over and again is often a process. Some things you have to have had your fill of. And again, it may take many years until you're finally fed up. How many of you put up with stuff for years? And put up with stuff for years. And then you get to the place to where you had your fill of it. And you realize that if you don't do something, you're going to lose your mind. Somebody's going to get hurt. You're not going to make it. Hallelujah. You're not going to be able to move forward in your life. Amen. But this comes after years and years and years of putting up with stuff. Most of us are not short-fused people. We deal with situations for a long period of time. And because we deal with certain situations, certain conditions in our life, and a certain mindset, these things begin to weaken us over a period of time. And then we find ourselves barely being able to function in life. Not being able to think right. Not being able to make right decisions because we're fed up with the situation. You don't believe that it's okay for you to have peace. You don't believe that it's okay for you to have everything that the Word of God says. You don't believe God's Word for your life. You believe that it's for somebody else. But God doesn't mean this specifically for me. So we're weak when it comes to the Word of God and applying that Word to our life as if though it's our Word. Somebody say it's my Word. Hallelujah. It's your Word. Hallelujah. The Word is for you. It's not just for the person sitting beside you or the person in your house that looks so godly to the man, he said, will thou be made whole? In other words, will you be wholesome? Will you be fit? Will you be wise? Do you want to be sound in mind? Do you want to be healthy? Do you want to get better? Do you want to move on? Do you want to be okay? Do you want to be healed? Will you be made whole? Do you want this word? Do you want what I have for you? Do you want a relationship with me? Will you be made whole? Because it's up to you. Will you be made whole? And this amazes me. He began to make excuses as to why he couldn't be made whole. I can't get into the water. And every time I try to get into the water, somebody steps in front of me, and I don't have anybody to put me in the pool. And the Bible doesn't say what his real frailty was. It doesn't say that he was lame in his feet. It doesn't say he had a back problem, he had a neck problem, he only had one leg, or he was paralyzed. The Bible doesn't say that at all. Just called him the weak man. He was weak all over. It doesn't say what his weakness came from, or why he was weak. Sometimes we're weak and we don't know why we're weak. Amen? Sometimes we got things going on in our life and we don't even understand, why am I feeling this way? Why am I struggling? Why can't I do this? Why can I move forward? Why can I walk into the things that God has for me? But he began to make excuses. And again, when you're weak, you make excuses as to why you're still in that condition. 38 years. Oh, well, maybe tomorrow. They was down to came in trouble with water. Oh, I can't get up. You know, you think after a while, in 38 years, he'd have made it to the pool if he'd have wiggled himself. Amen? He could have wiggled himself at 38 years and got into the pool. Amen? He could have belly slid, and he could have did a worm. He could have moonwalked. He could have did anything. Amen? He could have asked somebody, hey, you know, the person that got healed, hey, over here, can you help? 38 years? He laid there. Most of the time she want to go and take a self-defense course or go buy a gun. Amen? Why? Because she wants to be empowered. Amen? Like, I'm not going to let that condition stop me from leaving the house. I'm not going to let that situation stop me from living my life. I'm going to find a way to empower myself. And we've got to get to the place to where we got to find a way to empower ourselves so that we can no longer be the victim of whatever it is that has us bound. Hallelujah. Some of us are victims of people. We have people living in our own house that we've allowed ourselves to become the victims of. They ain't doing nothing to us. But we see them as a big bad wolf. Amen? Somebody say, I wish I would. Somebody say, I wish I would. Oftentimes, amen, when you get yourself up out of that, what you think is a big bad wolf, you'll find out that big bad wolf is not a big bad wolf at all, and you wonder why you were scared in the first place. Amen? You wonder why you stayed so long. You wonder why you put up with that condition so long. Amen? We let people bully us. We let people treat us any kind of way. We let all these things happen in our life. But then once you've been disconnected and you've been delivered, you look back on that situation and say, what was I thinking? Amen? Amen. It's an optical illusion. Somebody say it's an optical illusion. What you scared of? What has you bound? We scared of people. Oh, they're going to be mad at me. Amen. They're going to talk to me no more. Well, thank you, God. I'll miss you. And then I'll miss you less. As time goes on, I'll miss you less. Amen. Being victimized. You can look at somebody and tell that somebody's a victim. Amen? And victims get picked on, don't they? Everybody know you a victim. Amen? So everybody treats you the same way. And you wonder why the same people keep treating you, why different people keep treating you the same way? Because they can see that you are a victim. Amen? People prey on people that look like victims. If you look like a victim, you're going to be targeted, amen? That's why they tell you when you go somewhere, watch your surroundings, amen? Don't be looking around, looking down, looking at your phone. What I always told my kids, anywhere you go, pay attention to what's going on around you. That's in the natural and that's in the spirit realm too. Pay attention to what's going on around you so you won't be a victim. Things happen, but you better have done everything that you could do, amen? Don't do dumb things. Don't go to dumb places where you have the possibility of being mocked, amen? Don't drive down that dark street. And that's spiritually too, amen? Stop going dumb places in your mind, amen? Stop doing these things that put us in these positions, amen?
Every single day, I'm gonna make something great. That's my way. Every single day, I'm gonna make something great. That's my way.
And a woman having an issue of blood 12 years. Now she was in this condition for 12 years, which has spent all her living upon physicians, neither could be healed of any. And it says in another chapter, another book, that she began to say within herself. In other words, her changing started to think about the situation. She began to empower herself. Amen? I know that there's a way for me to get out of this. I done spent all my money on these doctors and I'm still not healed. And she began to say to herself, if I could just get to Jesus, if I could just touch the hem of his garment, amen? I'll be whole. This woman had been bleeding for 12 years straight. 12 years straight. Just bleeding. The Bible says she had an issue of blood. And the definition of that means a flux of blood. In other words, it's interpreted meaning an abnormal discharge of blood. The Bible says the life of the flesh is in the blood. So that it represented life. And then this was an abnormal, this was a flow. It was flowing out, it was coming out. There was nothing that she could do to stop it. It was coming out every day, all the time, 24/7. No matter what was going on in her life, it was still flowing. She couldn't plug it up. She couldn't stop it. Amen. Can you imagine all the things that was happening in her life? How it changed her life, how it complicated her life? 12 years straight. Some of us are bleeding and leaking over everyone and everything that we're contaminating people that we come into contact with our issues. And the Bible says, I believe in the book of Leviticus, if a woman has an issue, if she has a flow, and her issue in her flesh be blood, this is what happens. She shall be put apart 7 days. 7 days until the time the issue is up. And then whatever touches her shall be unclean until the evening. And everything that she lies upon in her separation shall be unclean. Everything also that she sits upon shall be unclean. In other words, everything that she came into contact with was contaminated, was unclean. And because we have issues in our life, because we have weaknesses in our life, everything that we touch, we're contaminating everything, everybody. We contaminate people with our anger. We're contaminating people with our thoughts. We're contaminating people with what we say about situations. We're contaminating people with how we're handling our life. We're contaminating people because we got these issues that we won't deal with, can't deal with, refuse to deal with, don't know how to deal with. So for 12 years, can you imagine? She couldn't go nowhere. This condition, it ruled her life. Gotta be careful what I put on. Can't go out nowhere because if I go out somewhere, I'm gonna contaminate people. How many people know? Who knows what's going on in my life? Okay, I went to the doctors. Who did the doctors tell? What about family members? What about holidays? What about celebrations? Can people come into my life, or do I have to keep people at a distance? Because I got this issue. And if they come close to me, they're going to be contaminated. Contamination implies intrusion of or contact with dirt or foulness from an outside source. It was an abnormal issue. Some of us have issues in our life that are abnormal. And because we've had these issues for many years, it's made us weak and powerless. However, nobody ever sees your issue because it's covered up. Her issue was covered up. Nobody saw it. But she had it. She knew she had it. And the people that were closest to her knew that she had it. Amen? And again, the issue affected her whole entire life. It's one thing to have an issue that doesn't complicate your life. Because some of us have issues, but we can deal with it, we can move on, we can still live a semi-normal life, or somewhat of a normal life. Maybe we've got to figure our way around it, but it's a different thing to have an issue that rules your life. You can't function in life. Every decision that you make is based on whatever this issue is going on in your life. Whatever this weakness is, whatever this problem in your life is, every decision that you make it based on this issue. This problem, this hidden thing. And her issue became psychological, it became physical, it became emotional, it became spiritual, it became social. And it was relentless for 12 years. For 12 years, 12 long years. But I love that in this period of time, she wasn't just accepting of this issue. She was still trying to do something